So, for example, relationship is a really fun area for me, like to work with couples or families where we're looking at the mirror of relationship in a group session and what everything brings up for each side. And KI is a good modality for that because it gets to the deficiency stories pretty easily. Somebody triggers me, and I might not see that one of the main reasons I'm being triggered is because I already believe I'm not good enough. And then someone said something that triggered that. But then in a relationship, when we're triggered, we often, until we're awake to it, we really can focus on the other person so much that it blinds us to what the trigger is. So in those group settings, when you have couples, it's really interesting to just watch the compassion and clarity that arises when you're watching someone you love, and you can see that although it appears like meanness or anger or something on the surface, it's actually a very vulnerable feeling behind all that. And
Yes.
I just love watching people connect when they really see clearly.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be talking with Scott Kiloby. Scott Kiloby is an author, speaker, and expert on mindfulness and authentic spiritual awakening, as it is taught in the East. He is the founder of 2 worldwide mindfulness and self-inquiry training programs and is the co-developer of a new model of addiction recovery that is based on mindfulness, inquiry, and unconditional love. So first off, Scott, I know you're an enlightenment teacher. Do you want to say a little bit how you ended up being an enlightenment teacher?
Yeah, I can tell you that when I was a kid, that never came up, or any time that I was,
Yes.
I didn't even know what that meant. I was practicing law and all these changes were happening for me. And just pretty organically, I just kind of moved into it. Like people were coming to, they wanted to know more. So I was like spending a little more time with them, a little less time in the law practice. And gradually, just like I say, very organically, it felt right to do what I'm doing now. This feels like, you know, closer to my heart than the law. So it was a natural thing that it just happened. I don't remember a decision about it, actually.
Right. And was there a defining moment for you where you, I know that's kind of more a career thing. I mean, on a personal, impersonal level, because it's the person doesn't wake up, the person disappears. So was there a defining moment for that, or was it more of a gradual thing?
It's definitely a gradual thing. Yeah, there was a defining moment in the sense that I knew I wanted to share something, but at that time it was too early, so I didn't. And so that was the only defining moment. Afterwards, I just much more organically. It wasn't really a defining moment. It's just I just slid right.
Cool. So, tell me a little bit about your work using inquiry and mindfulness and teachings like that, working with addiction. Can you tell me how you came to that and what that work is about?
Yeah. Well, we call it a new model of recovery. It's just to put a name on it, but it's when people sort of switch the path that they're on to a path of inquiry and direct experience around the drivers under it. So we focus on trauma, emotional repression, chronic pain in some people's experience, shame, and deficiency stories.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is science-based. If you watch the science, they're saying that is a driver. So we've also found these drivers in our direct experience. And so we focus then on teaching people how to inquire by pulling up the unconscious, the more less than conscious programs around addiction. Mm-hmm. Like we may not know, like if I go to the refrigerator compulsively to get a beer or a pie, we may not be aware of all the programming that's going on from sitting on the couch until you get to the refrigerator, but there's a lot there.
Yes.
And so
very lot.
Opening those cans of worms for people, like helping them see the hidden unconscious viewpoints that are driving the compulsions. That's a in a nutshell, but there's more to it.
Sure, I'm sure there is. So tell me more about, I mean, totally get that because the Sedona method has been about helping people see those unconscious patterns and dissolving them now since the early 70s. And our process is very much a process of inquiry. It's always about asking questions as opposed to telling people anything.
Mhm.
And then the inquiry becomes less about the problem and more about that's that which truly is, as opposed to any kind of drama.
Right.
So I assume you make the same transition with
Yes,
people.
we do. It's a non-dual awareness based
Yes.
week of recovery. So it's based in the non-dual awareness. And of course, we bring all of our egoic conditioning and programming when we come around addiction. So very much I resonate with that, that we don't really we're not really in the business of positing truth. We're in the
Right.
business of acquiring to what we already believe that's already creating suffering.
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Right. So are there any particular questions you find the most helpful for people?
Yes, we have this reverse inquiry, which is pretty powerful and simple. Is just so, for example, what we're finding with addiction is many of the older programs, people have a pretty firm commitment to quit using something. What we found is that that particular line that I need to quit, I need to manage, I need to control, actually strengthens the craving.
Yes. Yes. We found the same
So,
thing.
yeah. So, well, one of our favorite inquiries is when people come with that real gung ho ness around, I got to quit, I got to stop. We take them into inquiry, reversing that. So we'll say, okay, take a look at the beer. It's perfectly okay to go drink that beer. And then here comes the shame. Here comes the deficiency story. Here comes the controlling ego and the
Yes.
managing, the one that's trying to always feel better. And the one that's judging the whole thing. Those thoughts come up just by asking that or saying that question. And we
Yes.
just have them sit in that as those things come up. And as they sit with that, they're surprised to see the compulsion going down. That's what always fun for me because they think that, well, if I'm inquiring or just allowing the thoughts of needing to quit, that might leave me in a place where now I'm out of control and now I'm really addicted. But the truth is, after it, the truth of your experience is the compulsion is much lower when you go deep into just something like that, just on the aversion towards something. So we find that pretty interesting.
Yes. Yes. When you allow or welcome what is, it just dissolves by itself. You don't have to try to get rid of it or try to fix it or try to manipulate it. All the trying to get rid of it, fix it, and manipulate it, it does tend to just make it stronger because the mind likes having something to fight against.
It does. It really does. You know, I wish somebody would have told me this when I was a kid. Because when you just, yeah, I mean, I get that, but like I spent 40 years not getting that piece of it to just let things be.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I was very fortunate. I met my mentor, Lester Levinson, my original mentor, back when I was 22. And the Sedona method is about this whole letting go and allowing, as opposed to efforting and forcing and pushing. And so from age 22, I've been working in that direction.
Mm.
And it's going on, well, I'm 70, no, 68. I'm almost 68. So it's been a long time. So what else do you, besides that welcoming or allowing the reverse inquiry, which is very powerful, what else have you found? I'd like to share with our listeners as much as we can that you believe will help people and also at the same time expose them enough to your work so they might be interested in pursuing it.
Yeah. One interesting development is the repression work
Yeah.
because I have chronic pain, a chronic spine condition, and I came to find out that it was repressed anger and some other repressions. So that's really interesting to the people coming to the work because those are kind of like inverse triggers. It's like you can even be drawn to spirituality because of repression, actually.
Yes.
So then we can hide out here in it. And so the repression work brings it up for you so that it doesn't hide. So the science is saying, emotional repression can lead to addiction, mental health. We're definitely seeing that. So the interesting stuff we're doing now around that is pulling up what we would call as like an unconscious repression barrier. It's a thought stream that's highly unconscious that says, no, I will not, and I cannot express anger because it's not safe, because they won't love me, because of all these reasons.
Yes.
But as they do that, their body starts to change as they just allow, as you say, don't try to fix or change any of that. See it, like be able to conjure it up so it doesn't hide. But then when it comes up, just let it tell you that you can't express anger. But if you stay with it, like everything, that story begins to dissolve at a certain point.
Yes.
And when it does, the body can start opening. And that is helpful for addiction because, I think but the folks listening may not get it directly. When we're repressing emotion, addiction is very helpful, actually, to keep it down. So by dealing with the repression, then the addiction can change, like the relationship to the thing can change.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things early on back in the 70s, we were telling people, look, trying to stop the pattern just reinforces it. But if you give yourself permission to continue to do it, except for controlled substances, obviously, but for everything else, but just but do your best to allow or welcome or let go of whatever feeling is motivating you to go in that direction. And then if you still want it, let yourself have it. That does exactly the same thing you're talking about. It gives the permission, and you stop fighting with it. And at the same time, you're releasing the patterns that pull you in that particular direction, or letting them go, or welcoming them. And we had people who were seriously addicted to all sorts of things have it just drop away, and most of them were often shocked at how easy it was.
Mm-hmm. By allowing, that's the big secret sauce there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We've had many people come back and forth from Sedona in my work, so I think there's a different resonance with those two.
Yes. No, I've heard positive things about you for a long time.
Same here.
Yeah. So, how does the non-dual piece come in?
Yes. So, how does it come in? It's an awareness-based inquiry. So it's really, you're resting as awareness throughout the whole process, but that doesn't mean you've stabilized in it. And so we've got practices to help just sort of stabilize in that recognition, kind of just normal non-dual pointing. But then what we bring in the inquiries that pull up some of the more unconscious stuff that is actually it's really against being the non-dual awareness, the self stuff that comes up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're just processing those things. We're working in the body mainly. It's somatic based, like Sedona. And so we're looking at the mind-body connection. And that mind-body connection gives the experience of identification. So if thoughts come through, they're connected to body. They feel true. They feel like they're me. That is me. At least we think that. So just by processing these things and resting as awareness, we start to see either like suddenly or gradually that we aren't these things. But we try to encourage people not to put the cart before the horse, not to just say that if it's not your experience, because then the mind can get involved and actually bypass the real work. But using that as a loose context, the non-dual is our context here. What we're doing here is we're trying to discourage all bypassing. So the non-dual is obviously the main thing here, but the mind likes to use it sometimes as a way to avoid some of the somatic stuff. So it's very much non-dual, but we're also aware of the bypassing that can go on with any method. It can go on with our method, but that's the only real difference. It's very much non-dual based.
Right. So are there questions you use in the beginning that help people get more in touch with the non-dual? I mean, we have simple questions we use, but I'm curious about the ones you use.
Well, a few that I use just sitting with a group is I might have them use this inquiry is to say, I'm already awake. And so that's not for awareness. That's an inquiry for the mind,
Yes.
the mind that's measuring its progress, you
Right,
know.
right, right.
And so when you say, I'm already awake, it gives an opportunity or permission for the mind to say no. So you can see the stories more clearly because they do hide. And so that's one way that we're doing it. I'm already awake. No. And then just watching, allowing, or there's nothing else that I have to do to recognize my true nature. Yes, there is. I have to do this. I have to do that. I'm all, those kind of things that just show you that you're already that and then point you to the mind that says no to that.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's always the mind that says no.
Yeah.
Obviously, non-dual awareness or beingness doesn't speak. It just is. But if it could speak, it would be saying yes to whatever's being
Yeah.
experienced.
That's good.
It's only the mind that says no.
Sure. It does a lot of no's, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Starting at a very early age. It starts at, for most people, around 2. That's why it's called the terrible twos. When you, as you recognize as you start identifying as a person, you start to, the first word that becomes very prevalent is no.
Yes, no, right. And then we live by that, don't we? That's our conditioning, to resist what is.
Yes, it totally is. It totally is.
Mhm.
And besides recovery, what other areas do you focus on?
Because the inquiries are not, they're so flexible, you can apply them. It's actually more than a non-dual approach. Like some people don't come in for the non-dual, they've just got something they need to process.
Oh,
So
of course, yeah.
yeah, so I'm sure the Sedona method is the same. So, like for example, relationship is a really fun area for me, like to work with couples or families where we're looking at the mirror of relationship in a group session and what everything brings up for each side. And KI is a good modality for that because it gets to the deficiency stories pretty easily.
Yes.
Like somebody triggers me and I might not see that one of the main reasons I'm being triggered is because I already believe I'm not good enough. And then someone said something that triggered that. But then in a relationship, when we're triggered, we often, until we're awake to it, we really can focus on the other person so much that it blinds us to what the trigger is. So in those group settings, when you have couples, it's really interesting to just watch the compassion and clarity that arises when you're watching someone you love. And you can see that although it appears like meanness or anger or something on the surface, it's actually a very vulnerable feeling behind all that. And
Yes.
I just love watching people connect when they really see clearly, what's going on in a relationship. So that's one area. I'm working with grief. Chronic pain is the big one now. People are coming to us for that now because we've got the repression work that's helping. Deficiency stories, trauma is one of our favorite areas. But a lot of people just come because they're on the path to awakening the pathless path. And they don't really focus or specialize in anything. They just want to, how it is. They want to hang out in the space where people are hanging out in space.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What happens, I think, in general on the spiritual path, no matter what path you choose, is it's a pain initially that gets you to want to go in that direction. It could be a physical pain, an emotional pain, something is out of balance within your life, or in your story, it doesn't seem to work because it never does, but that's the nature of the story. But and then at a certain point, especially as there's some relief, there's more of an interest in what's beyond all stories, what's beyond all suffering.
Yes.
And it is fun to hang out as that because it's exquisite. Beyond story is just what is.
Just isness, yeah.
Yeah.
It's too sweet for the mind to ever understand.
No, the mind can't. No. The mind just rebels against it.
Yeah. Right.
But also what's sweet is that even the mind's rebellion is still that.
is it.
Yes.
Which is why we say allow, because if you think it's, if you don't allow it, you're creating this division between you and what's arising.
Right,
And if
exactly.
it is you, then in allowing it, it's a much easier way in life, right?
Much.
Much.
Yeah, if you're at the ocean and there's a big wave coming, just standing there with your hands up, it doesn't go very well.
No, right. So that people, oh, then that same thing applies here. Like if I sit here and it's not going to go well, but this is different. It's like if you just stand and let the wave go, it's different here in the internal experience.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. Exactly, exactly. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share that you think would be helpful to people who are listening to this?
one of the interesting things that we're doing now is once we started doing the more, well, it's all been somatic work, but with the chronic pain and repression, there's a lot of stuff that comes up when you're working with repression. We found it's actually been really educational for us to see how much the ego actually resists this particular aspect of the work. And so we going through it myself, coming out of anger repression, it was at times ungrounding. At times I didn't know my way, even with the awareness, because you're bringing up something that's really old, and it was actually in the form of pain. It's not even,
Mhm.
when it comes up, it's so new. You have never felt anything like that. And I just noticed that it's going to be helpful for people to have support. Like this is
Yes,
a different thing now. So once every week doesn't feel like some people are going to be supported enough. So we created this Kiloby members area, which is just this place where you can go that's confidential on the web, where you can interact with people doing the repression and other somatic work. So you don't feel like you're going crazy, really.
right,
It's
right, right.
because a lot of stuff comes up. And if you don't have other people to kind of bounce back to you, like it's okay, actually, it's just stuff arising. You can kind of get into a place with that. So we have this community now, which is nice online.
Yeah,
Kiloby.
yeah, yeah. We've gotten a lot out of our online community too, because it's beautiful to watch people just support each other through the process of self-discovery and letting go of the apparent obstacles to that.
Right. And everybody becomes a teacher in that, is what I,
Yes, yes.
know. Yeah, because
Yeah,
everybody's experience is important to help people see the pitfalls, not just the how to be skillful, but listening to other people go through challenges and hear how they come out of that.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, no, we've trained, I think, I think it's about 600 people in facilitating, and with no strings attached. We just train them how to facilitate and let them just go off and do that with whoever they want, even if it's just their friends.
Yeah.
And there's this beautiful support that happens for both the person who's facilitating and the person being facilitated. Sometimes even more for the person who's facilitating.
Yes.
Sometimes there's even more transformation when you reach out to an apparent other and try to support them.
Yeah.
Have you found that in your community too?
Say that another way. I don't think I understood the last part of it.
Well, when you reach out to help an apparent other, there of course is a benefit to them if you're doing it in an integrous way.
Oh, yeah.
But also, when you reach out to help someone else, it helps you step out of whatever it is
Yes.
that whatever illusions you're still holding on to, and they
Yeah.
start to dissolve. And so often what we find is that the act of reaching out and doing our best to support someone else actually is a powerful aid in that person's understanding and freedom.
Very much so. And I don't know if you're noticing that in your training program, but with our training program, one of the reasons that we like having it is because people can support each other
Right,
forever. They're always
right.
there to support each other. Yes, the support is absolutely important. It even goes beyond that, just sort of like selflessness, but
Yes,
there's because you can even gain skill by watching someone else or facilitating someone else. You can have skill. I don't know if your method works as a self-support method, but ours does. You can do it on your own. And just working with other people helps you understand that skill to do it a little better. And also just being with someone in the awareness, even if you're just tracking their experience itself, is very freeing, or I don't know what the word is. It's like it helps all
it
of us
does.
to
It
just be
does.
with someone and letting them be who they are and
Yes, yes.
non-judgmentally allowing whatever comes up for
Yeah.
them.
Again, yes, it's the uh, there's a whole story which I won't go into, but the punchline is in heaven we help each other. Even though there is no other, but in the appearance of other, when someone when people get together and they're both starting to recognize that they're not just a body mind with their story and their problems and everything else, the that shines both ways. And yes, what we do is very similar to what you do in that it is designed to empower each person to just continue it on their own without to needing the support. That's the ultimate goal for us, is to help people get to the point where they're self-supporting,
Yeah, it's good.
self-sustaining.
Yeah, there's a lot of resonance between the two. I can
Yes.
see. Yeah.
So, anything else that you'd like to share with anyone who's listening? And now, just so you know, this is going out not just to our network, but our podcast is goes out all over the world in all the different podcast platforms. Plus, we promote it on YouTube. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you think would be helpful to someone
Yeah.
who's
So
listening to this?
yeah. So where I think that our word KI is Kiloby inquiries, if you're looking for it, the Kiloby inquiries is where it's becoming helpful to people is that some people got on the non-dual path and because they were in pain, like you say, or because of trauma, because of repression, and didn't realize it, that that's really a big driver for it.
Yes.
So um, the interesting stuff now is that KI is really an integration of the non-dual and the processing of human stuff. Like
Yes.
where before, you can lean anyway on that. You can lean so far back in the awareness that you bypass the human experience. You can
Right.
identify so much with the human experience that you don't know the transcendental.
Right.
So
Right.
what
Right.
we're trying to do is balance so that this non-dual awareness that we're talking about is not exclusive of anything. It isn't. It includes relationship. It includes everything. And I think some people are going to be drawn to that because maybe they were involved in the teaching that maybe tried to section spirituality off in some way. Like this is spirituality, over here that's light,
Right.
and we don't do it that way. So we
Yeah.
integrate. And so if you're interested in integration and bringing in a method that doesn't have a lot of spiritual talk, like Sedona doesn't really have a lot of flowery language,
Right.
very practical for human issues, but still spiritual, transcendental. That's what we do.
Yeah. Even your pooch is not is that one
Yeah,
beingness.
yeah. He's a little irritated right now, though.
Oh well, what's nice is that yes, we want to get rid of our repressions and open it all up, but at the same time, even when there's repression, that it's still that
Yeah, or fear, or
or
whatever.
fear or whatever it is. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, well, that's great. Anything else you want to add, or anything you want to offer people as a as something they can work with on their own?
Well, I could offer anyone. We have a free trial period in the members area. That's more than me offering a method. If I'll give you the link if you want to give that to them, try it out for a while. Um,
Sure.
but I also
And
want to
we'll
talk about,
also put it in the notes.
yeah,
But if
that'd
you
be
want to
great.
share it now, that'd be great.
Well, I will share just, I don't know if I'll share the work around it, but I'm talking about subjects that aren't always talked about in spirituality. Sedona method, I don't know, but
Mhm.
shame.
Yes.
Um, just feels like it's not talked about a lot, and it's built into the fabric of our reality to some degree in our bodies. So we're focusing a lot on that because it's driving addiction, because it drives suffering. And I think for your folks out there who are listening, if you feel like that area is not being covered, that's the thing is we're covering some areas that aren't always covered. And so if shame is something for you, you can start out with just this. It's just a very simple reverse inquiry where you pull up people in your life, just seeing mom, dad, whoever else, and just start with the inquiry. I'm not ashamed. Simple enough. I'm not ashamed. But it brings up so much because it forces the ego to show its cards. When you say the opposite of something, it forces it up.
Mhm.
If you say, if you just sort of, it's hard to explain, but like without reversing it, sometimes it's hard to see shame. That's what I'm saying is you can't
Yes.
blend it in so well to our reality that you can't see it. But with reverse inquiry, it's like, there it is right there. And the programs become very obvious. The beliefs were very obvious by just reversing that. So if your audience will just sit with that after this call and say, I'm not ashamed, and then just watch and let everything come and go. If they resonate with that, if that helped them access something that they couldn't access before, there's more of that because
Great.
that's
You're
what we're
right.
doing.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure there's appropriate. Again, we actually do something that's similar. We actually have people welcome the issue and then welcome its opposite,
Mm.
and just go back and forth between the two.
Yes.
And
That's
in
powerful.
that, they tend to dissolve each other.
Yes.
Then there's no trying to fix either side. It's
Right.
just allowing it. Yeah.
And that's really non-dual too in that
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
So great. Great. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Scott Kiloby. You can learn more about Scott Kiloby at kiloby.com. That's KILOBY.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona Method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.